What's up, YouTube? How you guys doing? It's your boy Henry here again, back with you guys with another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you guys about my top tools for building modern tech applications, right? So, technology moves pretty fast, and it's very important as a developer or as a creator to kind of keep up with the pace of what's new and what makes development easier. So coming from someone who recently learned how to code, like I learned how to code like 3 years ago. I relearned how to code 3 years ago. Hold up, guys. Let me fix this real quick. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I learned how to code 3 years ago. So these are my top tools. I would go across front end, back end, cloud, and yeah, I'll touch across those three spaces, right? So the first things first, my first tool, which has to do with front end, is so there are three, and they're basically like the same thing: JavaScript, Vue.js, Nox Js, right? In that order, right? So learn JavaScript, then you learn how Vue works. The moment you learn Vue, you realize that Nox is basically Vue, but it's made a lot easier, right? So you don't have to do a lot of the configurations and stuff. So if you check, most of my sites are built with Nox. If you're currently a Vue developer, I promise you should be writing Nox, right? So Nox.js basically is essentially Vue, but it just allows you to not have to do a lot of the configuration, right? And for as a developer, we all know that a lot of the work we do is basically like setup, configuration, building, and debugging. We spend the least amount of time actually writing the code. So if you can work with tools that essentially allow you to write your code straight out the box, that works. I think in the React world, there's Next, right? So, but I don't usually use React, but I think Next is also cool as well. All right. So still in the front-end world, another awesome tool that I think every developer should use is Netlify, right? So Netlify is basically a tool that allows you instantly build and host your code on the cloud, right? And then you don't have to worry about setting up a server and stuff, and it's free, guys. It's free. So it allows you to host your site on the internet for free, and then it builds your code straight off your GitHub. So the moment you push your new code to Git, Netlify builds it up and redeploys your app, right? And it's free. And I don't think you would ever need to use the paid version except you're like building like a very complex app. But for most static websites, you technically wouldn't have to pay. So as a developer, you definitely have to be using Netlify. I use Netlify for all my static websites, and in fact, I think I created a Nox server-side web app, and I think there is no need for me to make it server-side anymore. I may just host it on Netlify just because it's kind of not really expensive, but I have to pay for it to be hosted server-side. So yeah, that's one thing to keep in mind. So still in the theme of like front-end development, right? The moment you've learned how to host your site, you've learned like HTML, you've learned CSS, you've learned JavaScript, and you've picked, a specific JavaScript framework. The next thing you need to learn is like backend, right? But we live in a time where you don't necessarily need to learn how to build, you don't necessarily have to learn how to build like an authentication system from scratch, how to build like a login from scratch, how to build like file uploads from scratch. This is where the next tool comes into play. And this is like my best tool, guys. Like this is my best tool. I've literally read the entire documentation of this tool almost like 4 times now, guys. And this is Firebase by Google. This is literally the best tool any developer should learn in 2021. It's extremely helpful. It allows you build a full stack app easily, and it's flexible enough to also allow you to add any kind of extra functionalities with other external APIs using cloud functions. I use Firebase for like everything, guys. I use Firebase for everything I do. I think it's extremely helpful. And I'll be putting the links to all these tools in the description. So just check the description, read the docs, play around with these tools. They are amazing, guys. So we have like touched on some front end, and Firebase is essentially like a backend tool. It allows you build a full stack app. Still in that same category of Google Cloud, because Firebase is a Google Cloud product. In case you didn't know, it's hosted on the same infrastructure as Google Cloud. So a lot of people like to shit on Firebase in the tech community, especially backend developers, because they think Firebase is like for MVPs, or it's weak, or you can't build a production ready app on Firebase. That's all completely bullshit. Honestly, you can. But in case you want to extend your app even further, so there are 2 Google Cloud tools that I also highly recommend. So there's Google Cloud Run and Google Cloud Build, right? So Google Cloud Run and Google Cloud Build. Google Cloud Run essentially allows you to run a container serverlessly, right? So it allows you to run any container for any operating system, any language, any configuration that you can ever put into a container on a serverless backend that scales the container as the demand increases. Let me repeat myself, guys. Google Cloud Run allows you deploy any container you can ever create on a serverless infrastructure that scales and descales by itself. You don't have to even think about it. Do you understand what that means, right? I hope you understand what that means. This means, a lot of the like manual stuff, all this DevOps guys have to do to scale, load balancing this, all these things you have to do. You don't even have to think about it. So that's like a pretty amazing thing. And then the next one is Google Cloud Build. And this does what Netlify essentially does. So it connects to your GitHub, and as you push it can build out anything and speak to any Google services. So ideally, if you are using Google Cloud Run, you don't have to. You can use Google Cloud Build to set up a continuous integration workflow that allows you build your code on your Cloud Run server as you push to your GitHub. I created a video about this. I'll put it on the cards here, and I'll probably put it down in the description below, so you can check that out. I did a whole flow how to host a Nox website server side, and if I think that'll be helpful for some of you, so you could check that out as well. So I've mentioned Google Cloud Build, Google Cloud. Okay, so let's go into mobile development. And guys, you already know what I'm about to say, guys. Trust me, I've gone through everything. I've gone through the documentation of Ionic, Swift UI, every single thing, and I firmly believe the best framework any modern day mobile developer should learn is Flutter. Yes, Flutter. Yes, Flutter, guys. I'm personally learning Flutter myself, and I'm going to be working on an MVP pretty soon, and I'm hoping to build it using Flutter, Flutter and Firebase, of course, guys. So I'm going to be building everything from scratch myself. That'll be kind of what will help me learn how to use Flutter, because I believe the best way to learn as a dev is through working on a personal project. So I think those are my video recommendations for the top modern day tools every developer should know or have used before. I know I'm a little bit biased towards the Google ecosystem. I know like Amazon has some amazing tools, but I just kind of feel Google has a more coherent system. For example, Flutter and Firebase work really well because they're both owned by Google, and that alone is pretty good enough to build any kind of like mobile app idea you may possibly have, except it's like super advanced, and even if it is, you can always expand it with other backend services. You get. So those are my thoughts on the top tools, the top modern tools every developer should kind of know. If I missed anyone, if you have any suggestions or some things I didn't say, you can put it down in the description below. In the comments below, guys. And hope you like this video. Share with your friends, and see you guys in the next one. Peace.